Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Mitch, I really need to get my own open. Brien Hanley is out with a little infection following some surgery. Hopefully Big B will be back with us soon, but we effort on at the Big 12 Insiders. We are more than one man. Actually, I'm finding out he does a lot. Tim Fitzgerald filling in for Big B as we take a spotlight look at one of the two big games here in the conference. And of course, BYU and Arizona State is one of those games. Mitch Harper from our BYU side on the 24/7 Sports Network joins us for a preview of that game. And boy, Mitch, what difference a week can make. BYU clearly in control of this conference, and then the Kansas Jayhawks nip them as they did Iowa State the week before, and they might do to Colorado this week. Brother, now all of a sudden BYU's fighting for survival against an Arizona State team that honestly shocked a lot of people by rolling into Manhattan and dominating Kansas State. This is a good battle of two teams that have beaten Kansas State from my perspective. What are your thoughts on BYU's situation going into this game?
Huge test for BYU. They've got to bounce back quick. Kalani Sitake's teams the last 3 years, they have these moments where they let one loss turn into two, or in some cases 3, 4, even 5. Last year they had a 5-game skid. The year before that, a 4-game losing streak. So responding to adversity is going to be key for this BYU team that in short memory has not done a good job of that. But, this team has been so different than, recent Kalani Sitake teams that this could be another checkbox for them to show that they're built different than in years past if they can respond quickly. But it's going to be tough, to go into Tempe. It was already a sold-out crowd before, the turn of events on Saturday with ASU beating K-State and then BYU losing to Kansas. So this was always going to be an energized crowd. A lot of BYU fans expected to be in Tempe. But, this is going to be a good spot for BYU to try to really see if they're truly a Big 12 title contender.
Well, the opportunity is there. Win in Tempe would basically lock that up. You still got Houston coming into Provo. Houston's impossible to predict as they've been up and down and all around. But I think BYU should win that game. So this is the one that could throw you into the dreaded Big 12 tiebreakers, though, if you end up with Arizona State and Colorado and you and maybe Colorado and Iowa State possibly with 2 losses, then we get it sorted out or let the Big 12 office just make up the rules. So we'll figure that out at a later date. But for most of the season, BYU's been the better team between these two, but I've just seen this steady growth from Arizona State, a team that hadn't beaten a Big 12 team with a winning record this season, just absolutely decapitated K-State in Manhattan, just took them out early and held them at bay. It was an impressive performance. The Cougars better keep an eye on those Sun Devils.
They need to, because, BYU offensively has been struggling the past 2 games. And in particular, the red zone offense is a glaring issue for BYU. 4 appearances last week in the red zone against Kansas. They end up with only 6 points, and both were on field goals, those points. So only 1 touchdown in the last 2 weeks for BYU's offense that was flying high in the early part of Big 12 play. 38 points against Kansas State, 34 against Baylor. Every week it was 30 plus from BYU early on. And that was part of why BYU, I believe, catapulted to number 6 in the college football playoff rankings last week, was because you looked at the game control metrics, the strength of record. BYU was doing a great job of taking care of business in a more dominant fashion. I think people gave them credit for outside of the Utah and Oklahoma State games. But the last 2 weeks offensively, BYU's looking more like the offense that we saw last year while they were crawling to a 5-game losing streak in a 5-7 season. So they've got to find answers there. And I think some of the play calling is in question from fans with Aaron Roderick, some of the decisions that he's made, but also the execution from quarterback Jake Retzloff. He's earned a lot of praise this year for his play, but the last 2 weeks have been a struggle, and he has got to make better decisions. He's got to show more arm strength, and he's going to be important for BYU to come away victorious. I don't see how you can win a big road game in this league without excellent quarterback play. So Retzloff's got to be really good on Saturday afternoon if BYU wants to come out on top over the Sun Devils.
Did Kansas do anything in particular that frustrated that offense, particularly in the red zone?
You know, it's a good question because some of it was BYU, that fade play at the end of the second quarter. That's where a lot of the, I think, frustration from Cougar fans lies, because BYU threw a pick in that spot, and the personnel grouping, the selection there. I mean, BYU's going with a fade pass, and they're going with one of their tight ends, not Darius Lasser, not Chase Roberts. I think it was, again, more BYU on that situation. Now, Kansas DB, he makes a play and picks off the ball, sure, but I don't think anything caught BYU completely off guard. I just think they couldn't finish the job and get it done. And BYU's tempo was a lot. I felt slower than what we've seen in the past from this team. They had one of the longest drives in the Kalani Sitake era to open up the third quarter. 17 plays, 10 plus minutes, but it ended with a field goal. And in retrospect, it kind of felt like a little bit of a loss right there for BYU to only end up with a field goal after such a time-consuming drive. They get a touchdown there. I think that's a completely different game and
Very.
probably comes out on top. But you know, I do think though that there is a feeling from Kalani and this team that maybe this could be a good thing for them. Just, okay, the loss happened. Now they still have everything in front of them. Win out, and you are going to probably be in Arlington. So I think that but they got to respond quick. And I just think that it's difficult timing considering Arizona State is playing their best football of the season.
For much of the season, BYU, I think you might admit, felt a little charmed. Things just kind of went their way. And then there was the pooch punt. What an absolute freak accident. And it ends up being a KU touchdown that wins the game. Uh, I don't know if the bill was due or what, but that was a freak play that went against BYU, and that hasn't happened all season.
It did feel like a little bit of, you had all this kind of, I don't want to say luck, but you had a lot of good fortune go your way against K-State. You had the late pick against Baylor. You had the hold that broke your way against Utah. A lot of good things. The Oklahoma State drive. BYU did have a charm season, and it turned on them. A momentum killing play in the second half swung in the opposite direction of BYU, and it was just a crazy situation. And you really probably have to go back to, for Leipold in Kansas. They hadn't really shown that on film. Leipold's done it in his career, but that was at other stops. So, BYU was not ready for that. And then it bounces off a player's head, and the BYU cornerback, Jacob Robinson, can't come up with it. Then one play later, Kansas, Devin Neal runs in for a touchdown. So, unfortunate circumstance for BYU, but still they had a chance in that 2-minute drive where Jake Retzlaff and the offensive thrived. They looked like they were on the move, and 3rd and 6, Jake audibles out of a play call, goes that option pitch that's worked so nicely for them. They pitch it to Hinckley Rapati, and Kansas assignment sound. They knew the tendencies. BYU's been going to that play quite often on third downs. Kansas knew that, and then BYU has a penalty, and they go to a 4th and 11. BYU doesn't, have they don't call a timeout. They let the 10-second runoff happen. They're kind of scrambling, it felt like, short of the sticks, and game over. So, difficult situation for BYU, but there is a belief that they can, if they execute, just kind of clean things up a little bit, maybe they can be a better spot going forward to close this out and ultimately get to Arlington like they thought they were destined to do a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I agree that it was kind of a freak thing. Now you face Arizona State, a team that seems to be playing exceptional football. Sam Levitt is playing really well at quarterback. I'm a huge fan of Cam Scadaboo. He's a scary running back. He's a bully. He picks on people. And of course, Jordan Tyson at receiver was outstanding. This is a team with some weapons and a pretty steady defense. How does BYU match up with the Sun Devils?
I think BYU has some opportunities to, potentially have success running the football against Arizona State. You saw a couple weeks ago, UCF had some success on Arizona State, and in Arizona State secondary, they were a big question, but they had success last week against K-State. I think they had 2 interceptions in that game. I think BYU's offense can put up some better numbers and operate at a higher level than what we've seen probably in the past 2 weeks from BYU. So there's some reason for optimism there. And I do believe, too, that BYU's defense will travel. And I think that kind of got
Yep.
lost in the setback against Kansas. Is Kansas was flying high. I think it was 540 something yards against Iowa State, and BYU holds them to 252. BYU's defense did enough, more than enough, to give the offense opportunities to win that ball game and wrap it up. But I do believe BYU's defense relatively healthy too. They come into this, second to last game of the season in the regular season, and they're pretty healthy. So they got the key guys: Jack Kelly, Tyler Batty, Jacob Robinson. Should be in a good spot. But I just, Scattaboo is, in a league that has so many great running backs. He feels like he's just so unique, and I don't think people nationally give enough credit to how good and how complex the different schemes and the personnel is in this league. Scattaboo just poses so many great challenges because of his receiving ability. I mean, we saw it with that Utah game where he had a late heroic grab to seal that victory for the Sun Devils against Utah. But I do believe that BYU's defense will show up. And this could be a game where maybe first to 24 gets the win potentially. And that's kind of the theme in Big 12 football when you're talking 3-point spreads. If you get to around 24, 27, that might be the benchmark to come away with a victory. So I think there are some areas, though, for BYU's offense to attack ASU.
Well, it will be interesting. I don't even know what to think about this game. Having seen K-State play in both, they're both exceptional teams. The matchups are going to be very interesting. 2:30 p.m. kickoff for those of us in Central, 1:30 p.m. in Mountain. And Mitch, I have no idea what time it is in Arizona. Does anyone know what time it is in Arizona right now?
1:32 for them.
They're 1:30 at
same
this
as
time
Utah,
of year.
yeah.
Oh man, they're so confusing. Arizona just goes by its own rules. It's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to seeing part of it. Of course, it's head to head with the other good game in the Big 12. Good job, networks. And but I think this is going to be an immensely entertaining game. And of course, as we all predicted at the season, one or both of the spots for the Big 12 championship is coming down to Colorado, BYU, and Arizona State. We all had it. We all saw this one coming.
Yeah,
this is incredible. Welcome to the Big 12.
It is just incredible, though, this league, how, even if there's a down year for some programs right now, you can bounce back in a hurry. And I just think it is a little bit NFL-like in this league where, man, this thing can turn in a hurry, where these other leagues, you kind of know the power structure year after year. This league will always, you could turn this thing in a hurry. I mean, from where BYU fans and people covering the program felt BYU was going into the year to now. I mean, 9-1. Even Kalani Sitake said that in the post game after Kansas. He said, "You would have told me 9-1, I would have taken it." I mean, and that's like coming from the head coach, because the expectations were so low, and to be in this spot and to do it against ASU, where BYU and ASU got some really good history from their days back in the WAC and some recent matchups too. But I think this is going to be a really fun game and can really highlight the Big 12 in a way that again, shows this new era of the league that, hey, it's more than just the old days of Texas and Oklahoma. This is going to be a really entertaining league made for TV. You love college football. This is the type of league you want to watch. And I think BYU Arizona State's going to deliver on that.
Beautiful. Great summation of where BYU's at heading into Saturday's game in Tempe with Arizona State. And after this break, we'll bring in Chris Karpman from the Arizona State site to give the Sun Devils angle on things. If we want to listen to the Devils in this conversation, I guess we'll let Mitch do it. We'll be right back after this break. Mitch is standing by. Oh, Mitch is here. Chris is standing by. I got almost all through that, Mitch. Almost all the way through that, and then screwed it up.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
Welcome back to the Big 12 Insider Spotlight game of BYU going to Arizona State. And we're joined now for the second half by Chris Karpman, our Arizona State publisher on the 24/7 Sports Network. And let's go back to last Saturday, a game we were both at. Arizona State got a signature win out of its Big 12 schedule. And boy, it has elevated the Sun Devils into a position of vying for a Big 12 championship game appearance that we never thought possible at the start of the season.
Couldn't agree with you more. It's been a miraculous season, really, in a lot of respects for ASU, consistently winning all these close games. The worst 2-year period in ASU history since World War II, back-to-back 3-win seasons. And you think it's going to take a while to figure out how to learn to win these close ones, but that's not really been the case. It just something magical in the air with this team. And this is going to be the first game where ASU has been ranked playing against a ranked opponent since 2014. So it's been a decade to get to this point.
Yeah, that's very interesting. What exactly has Kenny Dillingham done that has hit the magic formula for this team?
His motto is we're going to have more fun working harder than anyone else in the country. And that's something that I think players can't really appreciate until they experience some success, and then you want a taste of it more and more. And that's kind of happened for them. And I think the winning has become part of the cultural DNA of who they are at this point, which is, it's a scary thing for other teams in the Big 12 when that's Sam Levitt's a redshirt freshman, Jordan Tyson's a sophomore, 70% or so of their two deep are players with remaining eligibility. They have a lot of things that are lining up for them.
You mentioned a couple dudes I want to talk about. Sam Levitt is rock solid at quarterback. I think what K-State observed from him and really appreciates about him is the fact that when he decides to run or throw, he's decisive. Doesn't mess around. He gets after it, and it speaks volumes about what that moment of hesitation can cost you in RPO situations or whatever they are. Jordan Tyson at receiver was a beast. Absolutely incredible. Chris Klieman called him the best receiver he's faced. Keep in mind, he's faced guys from Arizona and Colorado and BYU. He's seen some pretty good ones. And of course, my guy, Cam Scattaboo. I didn't tell you this on Saturday. I've started an all-male fan club, the Scatta Boys. So I love him, man. He got a little stifled on Saturday, but it served its purpose. You can never not keep an eye on him. It's not like if you hold him on the first 20 rushers, you can back out of the box and let him go because he'll get you on number 21. He sets a tone for that offense, doesn't he?
Yeah, he had a great offseason, got lighter, more athletic, breaking big runs. Kansas State run defense is as good as any that ASU's played this season for sure. Probably the strength of the team, in my opinion. But as you said they're still going to give him the ball 20 plus times, even if he's averaging 3 yards a carry. And that creates those opportunities for Jordan Tyson. The Sun Devils move him around the formation quite a lot in any type of place that you could find him. And that makes it difficult for defenses to be able to manage that. And Sam Levitt is tied for the fewest interceptions in the Big 12. He just doesn't put the ball into jeopardy. And he has such a competitive fire about him that just that coupled with Scattaboo and Dillingham, they're just like pounding at you with the sledgehammer over and over and over again until you finally buckle and give in. And this has been the tendency of the team throughout the season. And I thought with, Kansas State coming off a bye, ASU playing a tough game, traveling to Manhattan, it would be a little different, but it's been like everything else that we've seen this season.
That's amazing. Absolutely incredible. And the defense got it done against Kansas State. Talk about what this defense has accomplished this year and probably what they need to do against BYU.
Yeah, Giddens is a really great rusher, and Kansas State does a good job in that aspect. And he had a couple of those big runs in the third quarter, very similar to kind of what happened with UCF a week earlier. I think that game they'll prepared ASU for that environment, and their assignment sound. They tackle at a high level. They make the most of their turnover opportunities when they're presented, and they do a good job of making quarterbacks uncomfortable. Avery Johnson, really talented player, and didn't have one of his better performances, certainly. But a big part of that, I think, was just how persistent that ASU is defensively and its ability to cover while also fitting the run.
Well, it was really impressive how they just kind of took away everything. They just made everything difficult. They didn't give you anything. And I think I'm going to say it, K-State was outcoached by Arizona State, no question about it. Okay, let's turn our attention to this game on Saturday afternoon in Tempe. It's an interesting matchup because never in our life would we have thought these two teams are battling out, possibly deciding who's going to the Big 12 championship. It's insane, but I expect that Arizona State home crowd to be exceptional. What do you think we're going to see from them?
Yeah, it's a sellout. Second one, I think, this year. BYU and ASU have a lot of similarities in their sort of cultural DNA. Very physical at the line of scrimmage. They're going to pound the rock. This is the first, as I said, matchup between two ranked teams at Sun Devil Stadium since 2014 when ASU played Notre Dame and had several turnovers, one of the best performances in recent memory. And I'm not surprised to see ASU favored in this game. I think just given the trajectory of the season and the way that it has just built in waves, that ASU is very well prepared for this matchup. It's a mobile quarterback. They've played mobile quarterbacks. It's a physical rushing team. They've beaten those teams. Again, I'm just like a lot of people. I didn't believe. I was like, show me that ASU is ready to beat Utah. Show me that ASU is ready to win on the road against K-State. Show me that ASU's ready to do this. And every time they sort of just prove it. This is going to be as tough as a matchup probably as any this season, just given the style and the toughness that BYU plays with, the mobility of its quarterback. But I'm not betting against ASU, not when this game's going to be played in Tempe on senior day. It's the first time that ASU could go undefeated at home for the first time since 2004, 20 years. Wow. So I was at practice just an hour or so before we recorded this. And there's just like a fire in the eyes of these guys, and they've practiced very effectively in recent weeks, and it continues. And they have fully bought into what the coaches are telling them, and they're going to execute and get it done. I really do.
What has the Big 12 meant to Arizona State in this short span of time that they've been in the conference?
Tim, I think it's a phenomenal question. I've been really pondering this. You look at the Pac-12, which is such a quarterback-driven conference. Last year, Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Bo Nix, all Heisman Trophy caliber, top 15 teams in the country. And you knew that ASU was going to be out-talented by one or more teams on its schedule almost every year, going to play against better quarterbacks pretty regularly. And the Big 12 is a different type of a conference. There's tremendous parity. I think that if you played this exact same schedule 100 times, you would get different outcomes quite often. This just happens to be ASU's year. But I think given the ability to have some of their star players return next year, keep the coaching staff intact, this only being the second year of what they're doing and building in Tempe, I don't see ASU is going to be out-talented by anybody in the conference. I don't think it's going to be out-coached or out-prepared. There's a sense that I have that this is building into something that I have not seen in 20 years covering ASU athletics.
Well, very interesting. But as we know, in the Big 12, success can be fleeting. You can turn into the victim. There will be no victim in this game because a really great team is going to win. What does Arizona State have to do specifically against BYU to secure this win and all but a spot in the Big 12 championship?
Yeah, I think it's red zone efficiency. Avoid the big mistakes, especially on special teams. That was costly for ASU's opponent in each of the last two games. And I feel like this is one where if they do those things and then Sam Levitt and Cam Skadbu, Jordan Tyson have their typical performance, ASU is going to be right there at the end with a chance to win, if not well ahead.
Well, it's going to be a great game. Again, 2:30 Central, 1:30 Mountain. This one's on Fox, correct? Or yep. ESPN? Okay. ESPN. We've got two games on two different networks, head-to-head. I hate it. Can't get TNT into this conference close and soon enough for me. Need your own platform. Chris, thank you very much. Great to see you last weekend. You're going to cover an awfully important game this weekend, and it's got to be a blast.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep, that's it for this edition of the Big 12 Insiders. Big B will be back soon, and we've got another spotlight coming up later in the day. We appreciate you watching.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.